Pankaj ji, can you please start? Yes, Pankaj ji, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Am I audible, bro?
Yes, you are very audible.
Okay.
So
shall we
the recording has started. It's 11:30. We can start.
Okay. So, a very good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank everyone who has joined us. Being a Sunday, if you have spared time from your family and spending time with us, that means that you value it so much. So, thank you so much for that. Uh, I would specifically like to take names of a few people who have generously contributed to this event. Mr. Balaji Rajagopala has contributed 1,000 rupees, and there has been significant contribution by people like Naveen Vodapalli, Ashish Baladikshit, Balaji L, and Kanchana Anand. So we thank you, all of you, and a big thank you to Film Medium for considering SmartSync services good enough to present in this platform. Before starting the presentation, just let me speak 2 minutes on how we go about this at SmartSync services. So I am being the face of SmartSync services, but this research is not my alone. It includes every bit of effort from my other team members, Akhilesh Pathak and Karan Patel. So, and apart from them, we also have a good circle of influence from good investors. In fact, a couple of slides in this presentation has been taken from my friend Vikas Kasturi, with whom I keep sharing investment ideas, and have taken his permission to include them in this presentation. So if you like anything in the presentation, please give credit to them. And if you don't like anything, you can blame me for that. So with that, I would like to start the presentation. We'll take the questions after I think, Rani bhai, we have 2 hours, right? For this.
Yes, we have 2 hours.
So it's 11:32. By 12:30, I'll be able to finish up my presentation, and then we can take all the questions. You can please take note, and we can take all the questions after the presentation. Thank you once again, and let's begin the presentation now. Just a second, I'm starting the presentation. I hope you all can see the screen.
Yes, Pankaj ji.
So, CCL Products, before going, as you can see, an established B2B franchise and an embedded B2C optionality. So before going into the company in detail, let us first dwell a little on the origins of coffee and a very important concept of Lindy effect, which many of you must already be aware of, and how it is related to coffee. So, as you can see from the screen, coffee has been there since the 15th century. So it's a long time since we are using coffee. Even today, doctors have been prescribing coffee at small doses to many people, saying that it will keep us alert. Of course, over consumption of coffee has other side effects too, but coffee has been an integral part of our life. So it is very difficult to imagine uh, uh, a life without coffee for us. Uh, Whenever we start any research, whenever we look at any industry, the first thing to look at is disruption. So from disruption point of view, uh, as far as our understanding goes, coffee is something which is having a very low risk of obsolescence or substitution. We cannot say no risk of obsolescence because anything can happen anytime. But looking at this from the lens of Taleb, in his famous book Anti-Fragile, he talks about this Lindy effect, wherein he says that anything which has survived a long time has much more chance of surviving a longer time. So if a book has been in print for say 50 years, there is more chance that the book will continue to be in print for the next 10 years, 20 years, or 50 years. So, like, just to give you an example, Fountainhead, which was sometimes written in 1930s or 40s, but it is still in print and still people read about it. So similarly, if drawing analogy from that, we can understand that coffee, which has survived for so long, is there to stay. Now, from coffee, let's come to our next slide. Just a second, I'm just trying to, yeah. So from coffee, we are coming to instant coffee because the company which we are studying today, CCL product, is basically in instant coffee. So instant coffee is a subset of the total coffee market, but even instant coffee has been growing and it has become a large enough market. We have mentioned the source from where we have got the data regarding the market size and all. So today it is a $96 billion market in 2020. Look at, and if we just compare CCL's turnover in FY20, it is roughly around 140, $145 million. So just look at the opportunity landscape CCL has. I'm not saying that it will cover the whole market or something. It's just that the opportunity landscape is huge, and there is a long tailwind. How that tailwind comes into play? If you can read the slide, we have mentioned about the few important points wherein transportation is very cheap in case of soluble coffee because their shipping weight is lower and volumes are also lower than beans or ground coffee. Then the second point is convenience. Instant coffee offers convenience in preparation, and hence it is very easy. Even if you are at home, you want to do it on your own, you can make it very easily. Specifically in India, the instant coffee is growing at a rate of 15% year on year. And still, India is predominantly a tea consuming market. So just try to look at how things can change over the next 10 years, 20 years, and how the concept of the CCDs and the Starbucks are going to change stuff for us. So, and post this COVID-19, we have seen a big change in trend wherein we are seeing a lot of in-home consumption compared to out of the home consumption. So we don't know how long it will last because eventually we all agree that the vaccine will come out and we will be back to work. But there is a big change in how we will work, how offices will work. So maybe we'll have more online meetings like we are having right now. And for that, in-home consumption of coffee would go up, and that would again lead to more consumption of instant coffee. So we have put some data out here, the revenues and the market size and all. And then there are two types of coffee which is basically used in the instant coffee market. So one is spray drying and the other is freeze drying. So just quickly explaining how spray drying and freeze drying work. In case of spray drying, producing a dry powder from a liquid or slurry by rapidly drying with a hot gas. It is a cheaper process. And Robusta beans are used because Robusta beans are very strong in taste. And because of the process of drying, a lot of the aroma is lost in that process. So that is why strong beans are used so that some aroma is still left after the whole process is done. That is why Robusta beans are used in this. And Vietnam is the largest producer of Robusta coffee. In case of freeze drying, it involves freezing the product, lowering pressure, and then removing the ice by sublimation. It is much more premium quality, and Arabica beans are used for aroma. As over here, the quality is protected, not much of the taste of the beans or the aroma of the beans are lost in the process over here. That's why Arabica beans are used over here. So these two are basically different types of coffee which are being produced. Now just look at this chart. When we come to CCL, I just wanted to start with this chart. Many people just assume that CCL is just a contract manufacturer. So as we go deeper, we will try to unlock that message that CCL is a little more than a normal contract manufacturer, because a contract manufacturer cannot have that kind of a stable gross margin. Just have a look at this blue line. You can see it is consistently from 2004-5, the gross margins have been same, and it has been on an increasing trend. So right now it is more than 40%. In fact, 45% in 2020. Okay. So why the gross margin has steadily improved, and why, first of all, why gross margins are so high if it is just a contract manufacturer? They must be doing something. They must be having some kind of a competitive advantage or moat or whatever we can call it, but they must be doing something special which has allowed them to keep their margin high. Let's try to look at that. And before that, you can see the coffee prices have been very volatile all this while. So in spite of so much volatility of the prices of coffee, the margins have not been that volatile. So there must be some reason for that as well. We'll figure out that as we go into the presentation. So just, I don't know how clear it is, but if you can just spend some time understanding this, we have just tried to segregate normal contract manufacturer plus something which is CCL product, and then branded players like HUL, Nestle, Whirlpool. So how different their business model is. Say if you just take an example of a contract manufacturer like Dixon Technology. Dixon Technology is basically doing contract manufacturing for electronic goods. Okay. Look at their gross margin. Their gross margins are less than 10%, 12%. I'm talking about gross margin, not net margin or operating margin over here. It is around 10 to 12% in case of Dixon Technology. Whereas in case of CCL product, it is 40%. When you compare the receivable days are more than 45, 50 days in case of Dixon Technology. And in CCL product, it is far, far, far less than that. Now comes the most important part. Even though CCL product appears to be a normal contract manufacturer, what really makes it different from a regular contract manufacturer is the power of their IPs. With IPs, I mean the 1,000+ blends they make and sell to their customers. So this is something which has some proprietary aspect to it. Just to give you an example, it is not just like assembling of some things and then just shipping it out. If it would have been that easy, there would have been many players doing that in the market, and the end customer would not be so much dependent on CCL product. I'll give you one very good example, recent example from the company's history. In 2018, one of their long-term customers quit them and started their own facility to manufacture instant soluble coffee for themselves. So CCL had to, in one particular quarter, their revenues got hit because that party stopped taking orders from CCL product and started making on its own. In 2020, the same party came back to CCL. The reason being they were unable to make the exact blend which CCL product was able to supply to them. So that is the power and that is the moat and that is the biggest differentiating factor of this company, which is often not spoken about in the media or in the annual reports, because their annual reports are also so simple and they spend around 1.5 to 2 pages in the management and discussion analysis, and you will not find any pictures and all. It's a very boring annual report. You might not find it interesting to read, but if you read that MDA, the management discussion analysis portion, you will get all these information, and it is there. It's just that people don't discuss about it as often as they should. So that is the second part. The third part is now they are also trying to 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 be to face the branded players like HUL and Nestle. Before going to that part, I wanted to narrate an incident in 1997. CCL product made a foray into the branded space, pan India basis, and they failed miserably, and they lost a lot of money at that point of time. So they concentrated on their main business of supplying it to the white label players and focusing more on their manufacturing capability and enhancing their what do you say, the capacity, enhancing the capacity. So that is what they focused since 1997 till 2010, 11, 12. They were focusing more on that, but then they realized one thing, that this is a market which is far more smaller and has its limits compared to a branded space where you get more margin as well and you can grow faster. And that is why they started somewhere around 2013-14 their branded business. But learning from their past mistakes, this time they are ultra cautious, ultra slow, and starting with a very small market segment in South and then slowly picking up from there, so that because of any problem or any difficulty in the branded business, they don't want to get stuck in their manufacturing, or they don't want their business to suffer, the main business to suffer. So that's the way they have started their branded journey. If you just look at the evolution of CCL over the last, say, how many, 20, 25 years. So in 1994, it was just a instant coffee manufacturing, which started with basically partnership with global industry veterans. From there till 2003, they didn't make any major change in their business. They just tried to arbitrarily enter the retail market and failed there. So they lied low. They were a very small company by then. And in 2003, they made some big acquisition of ACMIL, which provided them an easy access to raw material and penetration in the developed market. Then in 2004, they were the first company in India to set up freeze-dried technology. No other company in India had that technology in 2004. And in fact, I don't know how many of you know are aware of this. CCL has probably the biggest capacity of manufacturing instant coffee in the world. So 2004, they started this freeze-dried technology. And from 2004 to 2007, the capacity expanded multifold, that is 4x, from 3.6 KTPA to 14 KTPA. And in 2013, set up another plant, which was a spray dried plant in Vietnam. Vietnam also give them, Vietnam gives them two major benefits. One benefit is that uh, they save a lot of tax manufacturing because it is a tax-free place. And second, most of the Vietnam is the biggest market of production of instant coffee. So from logistic wise, from export side, from everything, it is much more easier for the company to ship their products from Vietnam. In 2011, they set up another plant in Switzerland to tap the European market. This facility has not been able to scale up or give the required results which they thought yet, but still they have been able to hold it up well, and hopefully by in the next couple of years we'll see the progress on that front. So in 2000, I skipped the 2008 and 10 part. Where in 2008 they started exploring foreign location for manufacturing, and therein they realized that their business was very much vulnerable to coffee prices. So they quickly realized that if the coffee price keeps on changing from time to time, it keeps on fluctuating, their business and their revenues and their margins will also be hit a big time. So in 2010, they completely change their business model and make it a cost pass-through clause, wherein company has no risk of the price of has no risk related to the price of the coffee. They have a model wherein whatever be the price of the coffee plus their margin is something which they will charge their customers, and they receive all their 1 year orders in advance, so they can plan for this 1 year in advance. So if we are in FY21 now, so for FY21 they have already got the orders in place. The pricing has also been done. So that is why you always see there is a stability in their margin, stability in their report. You will not find that fluctuation. Now in 2015 they established the Continental Coffee brand, and they started tapping the B2C segment. So the good thing they did was in 2018 when they actually asked Mr. Praveen Jaipuria, former head of marketing at Dabur, to become the CEO of the Continental Coffee. And the company has been able to grow their sales in the branded segment at a good pace in the last couple of years. And even though it is still a very small part of their total revenue, this is what we mean by the embedded optionality we have in this business. If they can manage to grow their branded business, what we are seeing today in CCL is completely different from what we will see in CCL, say 3, 4 years, 5 years down the line. Company expects the branded sales to almost double the current year. Now, what are the competitive advantage we find in this business? So we have already spoken about the low substitution risk. Then it is a very highly capital intensive business. When you manufacture coffee, you have to set up plants, you have to have laborers, you have to make payments to, when you source raw materials, you have to make payment to your suppliers, and then you have to invest a long time in the process, and then you ship the products, and then the cash come to the company. So it is a highly capital intensive business which requires a high upfront cost. So that acts as a entry barrier for any new person, any new company, or any new business to enter into this segment, because the returns will come. It is a high gestation thing. The returns will come only after you spend around 5-7 years building that business, building your relationship with the customers. And then an important part of their competitive advantage is this cost pass-through model. You will not find this kind of model in case of, say, any contract manufacturer. in case of a contract manufacturer, they always get, they never have this kind of a model of cost pass through. They will be given always the price which is there in the market. So why CCL has been able to maintain that thing, and why there is less bargaining power of suppliers over there? The reason being, over here, the suppliers know that if they don't deal with him, deal with the company in this manner, they are going to lose out. The quality conscious buyers offers better price as CCL blends are proprietary. We have already discussed that since it's a proprietary blend, proprietary business wherein you spend a lot of time and know-how and energy in understanding how to make that blend, it is almost impossible to copy that. It is almost impossible to copy that. And then this is one of the company which has all varieties of coffee under one roof. Long-standing relationship with clients, economies of scale, low cost and tax efficient operations because of strategically located their plants, as we have already discussed. And then they ship to more than 90 countries. Now let's spend some time on the management. So Challa Rajendra Prasad started this business in 1994, but someone who has made some really good contribution or has changed the complete picture of the business is his son Challa Srishant, who joined the company in 2005. And senior management team includes employees who have been long serving and promoted to CFO and CEO levels. See, these things tell a lot about the company. When you have employees and management people who have been serving the company for 10, 15 years, 20 years, and then they are being promoted to the CFO and CEO level, that tells a lot about the company culture. Because if anyone who performs well in any company always has an option to exit and move to some other company. Then in the management board, we have got Mr. Praveen Jaipuria, who joined as a CEO of Continental Coffee, and through his experience of being the head of marketing of an FMCG giant like Dabur, he has started growing this business, the branded business, right from scratch, and doing all the right things over there. Promoter holding has been consistently increasing. So the foreign collaborators and the shareholders who were there in the company, they were holding around 15-20% share, and they basically so they sold out in 2009-10. From that time onwards, a consistent theme which we are seeing is the promoters of the company are consistently buying from the market, and they have never diluted. If you look at the equity, they have never diluted equity, and debt is comfortable. When we'll come to the financials, we'll get to know about the debt and equity part more. So this is in nutshell about the management. Now look at the financials. Just look at the last 10 years financials and see. The revenues have only grown at a CAGR of 10%, but in the same period, the profits have grown at a CAGR of 20%. Profit margins, both net profit and EBITDA, have been steadily increasing over the years. That itself means the scale economics coming into play and the kind of competitive edge they have. And ROE has been healthy even in times of heavy capex and rise in A&P expenses, because as you see, since the start of their branded business, they have been investing heavily in the advertising and promotion activity. Even then, the ROE is in the range of 18 to 20%. So what is the investment rationale over here? So number one point is strong export market and market presence and increasing capacity continuously since its inception. Strategic positioning of international units, as I've already discussed. Long-standing presence in the industry leading to deep customer relationships. See, again, this is another point which often gets missed when we discuss about, when we hear about the companies in the social or the financial media. The kind of the kind of relationship they have with the customers, so long those relationships are, and so dependent their customers are on them, it is very difficult to imagine a scenario where all of them will leave them and start going to other competitors, because we have already discussed one example where a company which used to buy from CCL, they started their own offering, they stopped taking from CCL and then came back to CCL. This is a huge testimony to CCL's standing in this market. The another point is big potential for market growth, shifting consumer pattern, specifically in India. The kind of young population we have, the kind of shifting consumer pattern, affordability of coffee. So over here, I'll give you an example where specifically in the freeze-dried coffee segment, Nestle and HUL, they don't have any plant in India, so they have to depend upon imports. And when they import, they have to when they import, they have to basically pay heavy duty on that. But in case of CCL, since their plant is in India, they can manufacture it as per the management's point in the con calls, recent con calls. It is around 30 to 35% lower than the cost of HUL and Nestle. So that again gives them a good pricing power, wherein they can have affordability for the masses. Then industry leading margin, we have already seen that the margin they have, and the optionality of growing the branded business. So these are basically the 6 investment rationale which we have for CCL. Now just let us look at these data points. So we have captured from data from 2000 to 2019 over here, and just try to look at some of the numbers over here. So in 2000 they were having a capacity of 3,600 metric ton, and today in 2020 it is 35,000 metric ton. That is 10 times. And I have not taken the branded business over here at all. So when the branded business grows, just look at the capacity for them to grow over here. Look at debt. The debt in 2007, 8, 9, 10 is the same what they have today, almost the same. And currently in the recent con calls, the management has conveyed that they even plan to let go of all these debt and to become more, since the business is generating enough cash, they want to retire more debt and become more comfortable on the debt equity side, and then go for further capex. And in the same period, just look at the margins. If you look at over here, the gross margins. I'm talking about the bottommost part of the slide. The gross profit and the PBT margin. The gross profit margin has, in the earlier years, the gross profit margin used to fluctuate a lot because of their dependency on the coffee prices. But from 2010, when they changed the model, just look at the gross profit margin. It has consistently been above 35 and has gone up over the years. If you look at if you just break the journey of CCL into 2 big parts, one phase was 2000 to 2009, and the other phase was 2010 to 2019. Just look at the cash flow from operation. It was 172 crores in the first part, for the whole period I'm talking about. And in the second phase, they have generated 902 crores of cash flow from operation. And look at the capacity expansion they have done in that period. That can be seen from the fixed asset addition they have done in that period. So it was 274 crore in the first phase, and it went up to 810 crore in the next period. FCF was negative in the first 10 years. FCF is positive, and FCF is positive despite such huge investment in capex. We should put that thing into mind. Debt is still the same. If the consolidated debt total is the same, that itself signifies the kind of cash generation the business is having, despite the huge scale of operation. And the biggest evidence of that is dividend. Dividend was 30 crores in the first 10 years, and it has increased to 200 crores in the next 10 years. If you look at the sales growth and PBT growth, take a 19-year CAGR. How many companies in the listed space would you find with a CAGR of 19-year CAGR of 17% sales growth and 21% PBT growth? So next come to valuation. We don't agree, or we don't resort to a very complex models. We primarily rely on the trainer, simple Excel stuff, and then our understanding about how we see the business in the next, say, 5-7 years. So even though we have made an projection of 10 years, that is just to look at a long term, we have tried to be as conservative as possible. So if you see, the volume CAGR has been growing at a 13% CAGR for the last 19 years. We have just taken that, and price and the PBT per kg, which has been growing ever since they started the business. But we have assumed, for being conservative, we have assumed that it will remain at the same price. If we assume that, even then, at current market price, we can expect a 13% CAGR for the next 10 years. I know nobody can say anything for sure, and Excel is a place where we can keep on typing numbers, but try to understand how realistic these numbers are. I am taking a 13% volume CAGR growth over the next 10 years, wherein a lot of market is still to be captured. CCL has the capacity and also has the potential to keep on investing in new capacity. Third, we have taken the PBT per kg as constant, which has been constantly increasing. So that also we have not taken into consideration. And the biggest part is, we have not valued their branded business at all. So if we think from the margin of safety perspective, that margin of safety we have, that we have not taken any pricing power, and we have not taken any benefits from the branded business. And even then, we expect a potential returns of 13% CAGR for the next 10 years. Now, let me just put a disclaimer here. Ronnie bhai, can you just help me here? I think there's some noise.
Done, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Ronnie bhai. So let me just put a disclaimer here. This is not an investment advice. The reason to the whole perspective of this seminar or this webinar is basically to let you understand how we go about studying and valuing a business, how we keep things simple, and how we think long term. We will never suggest you or recommend you to buy the stock at current level. And again, as a disclaimer, we repeat, I own the stock, and we have recommended it to our client. So our analysis is, of course, biased in the favor of the company. So please take your own decision after consulting your investment advisor. The purpose of this webinar is not to sell the stock idea, but to make you understand how we go about understanding the business. So what are the risks in this business? So the risk, as we can see over here, is that the example which I gave of the 2018 incident where one of the customers left the company. So still their bulk businesses are dependent upon few customers. They don't give the customer breakup so that we can clearly understand. Neither they have discussed in the con calls, nor they give any information on the annual reports. But looking at their business, looking at their past history, it gives us an indication that still maybe 10-15 customers drive the maximum amount of revenue in their bulk businesses. So if a key customer leaves them, that can be a problem for them, at least for that particular year or so. So that is a big risk for them. Dependent on coffee plantation in India and Vietnam, for sure. They don't have any backward integration or their own. They are dependent on buying the coffee from the plantation in India and Vietnam and then making their process. So they are exposed to the operational risk arising due to ecological environment risk in this region. Then the third and a very important risk is the risk in the branded space. If history is any evidence, they failed miserably when they tried it for the first time. So it is not easy to tackle players like Nestle and HUL, and it is still the situation is still evolving. We will only get to know how they fare in this particular segment in future. So that is again a big risk we should be mindful of. Just because they have done well in the manufacturing segment doesn't mean that they'll do good in the retail segment also. And retail segment is far tougher that way. Last point, the fourth point is unfavorable change in the export duty structure. That is MEIS, the merchandise export from India scheme. So they drive a lot of revenues. Their profit margins are high also because of these incentives. So if suddenly there is a change in the incentive policy of the government, that can also lead to the lowering of profit margin for the company. And the last risk, which is probably known to all of us, is the forex movement. Since they are majorly into the export market, even though they have their facility in Vietnam and most of their purchase is also in dollars, so we might think that they don't have those risk offset. But I would say that risk still persists because the kind of the timing of the cash flows is not the same when you buy goods from your suppliers and when you sell the goods to your customers. So that forex risk is still there. So now, before we close, I wanted to spend some time on this very important part of the aspect of the business of CCL. So it is very important to see how management or how the promoter is thinking about the business. And if you are really a long-term player, long-term businessman, a long-term investor, anything, or if you invest in long-term relationships, you have to do a lot of short-term sacrifices. So that is why I think here a very good tweet Professor Bakshi had made this tweet, and I found it really relevant over here. So strong parallels with investing. If you want real safety, you have to pay for it, often in terms of sacrificed returns. Robustness or anti-fragility almost always costs money. Just ask yield-chasing bond investors. And what Professor Bakshi has given or shown over there is an accident between a Volvo car with another car. was hit by a Baleno. So the kind of material a Volvo car is made of and the kind of material a Baleno is made of, that accident basically proved that who is more strong, who is more robust. I would not call CCL business as a anti-fragile business, because certainly they don't gain from disorder. Anti-fragile business would be that which gains from disorder. But the management actions over the years make me strongly believe that it is a robust business model wherein they are paying a lot for the robustness. So they could have tried, just to give an example, they could have again tried growing very exponentially in their branded business. But no, they didn't do that. They are going slow, very slowly and very thoughtful way. The reason for doing that is that they want to be very sure that even if they lose out to the big guys, they are not out of the game. Their main game continues and they continue to do well in that. And what is the sacrifice they are doing for that? That sacrifice is being seen in the last 2-3 years results, wherein you are not seeing much growth. Had they focused more on the growth aspect, you would have seen that in the numbers. So sometimes the numbers don't tell us the whole story about it. So that is where I wanted to highlight this fact about the company. And so basically, again, coming back to the same point with which I started, that CCL has the optionality in the B2C segment, and they're ready to sacrifice the near term for robustness. And that is why that is what makes us value the business in that way. And that is what makes us excited to own the company. So that's it from my side in terms of the presentation. I don't know. I was not keeping track of the time. So I think we are on time, 50 minutes. So that's okay. So we can take questions now, Rani bhai, one by one.
Yes, Ankit. Everyone, can you please put your questions into the chat box and I will ask Ankit from there. Okay, Ankit, the list is getting populated.
Okay.
So Ankit, I think you can stop screen sharing and read directly from the chat box. There are a lot of messages for you.
Okay, let me just do that. Okay, I'll start with the one which I can see.
You can start from Prashant's message in comparison to Tata Coffee and other competitors.
Okay. So I couldn't see that message, but I hope it is regarding Tata Coffee and other competitors, right? So
yes.
So Ronnie bhai, it would be great if you can just keep on telling me the question, and I'll be able to.
Sure, Ankit.
Thank you so much. So Tata Coffee is a completely different business. So Tatas have been in business in such a way that they have bought the plantation, they've taken everything in their own. जिसको बोलते हैं ना, अपने कंपनी में खुद के अंदर में सब कुछ ले लिया. They are not dependent upon many things, but that has also led to lower returns on capital, wherein you have invested a lot of capital in several different things, and where you are not being efficient enough. If you compare two different models, always the model where you are focusing on one of your thing and giving your best shot in that, you end up making a far better result out of it than spreading yourself too thin by saying that I will do this also, I will do that also. And I'm not saying that Tata Coffee is doing it the wrong way. it is all about the management's vision. They have a vision where they want to control everything, and they want to have the presence in the complete landscape of the coffee. But I forgot to put that in the slide this time. But if you look at the whole coffee chain, coffee value chain, the biggest margin and value is being provided by the processor of coffee. So CCL is basically trying to capture value from from that segment. So they're focused on that, and that is why you see that in the gross margins and the profit margins of CCL. You will not find that in case of Tata Coffee and other competitors. I hope I answered that question. If you have any follow-up, do let me know, please.
Ankit, how does it stand against BRU and Nescafe?
So, Brew and Nescafe are basically into the branded space, and over there, as of now, they are not competing. They're competing only in the southern market, wherein CCL has also started in the branded space, and it is very difficult to stand against the giants of Nestle and Brew. Only time will tell how CCL will fare in that area, but looking at the steps, little steps on an incremental basis, which the company is taking over the last 3-4 years, 5 years, it gives us an indication that they are going slow, but they are also trying to. It's just that they're spending a lot of time just building the foundation. As we say that the higher the rise of the building, the more stronger should be the foundation. So it really gives me a comfort by seeing that CCL is spending a lot of time, they are spending a lot of know-how, putting a lot of team in understanding the market, in trying to figure out how they can. I spoke to a few distributors and dealers in southern India. So one thing which they did was they provide a lot of they provide a higher margin to the distributors, and they can do that because they have in case of the freeze dried specifically, they have the scope, the margin, because they have higher margin, because their cost of production is very low. They don't have to pay any duty. They don't import that. They do it in house. They can offer that thing to Nestle and Brew, compared to Nestle and Brew. And in case of Nestle and Brew, that is not the only market they are taking. They are looking at pan India. They are also looking at other stuff. For example, Nestle has so many stuff, so many segments. Similarly, HUL has so many segments. So they are not so focused on particular that segment, and they have been growing that. They have been leaders in that segment. So they are not offering their dealers as lucrative an offer which a CCL is offering. So a lot of new dealers are advertising CCL product in their stock, in their small kirana shop and small storehouse, and they are also providing this to big bazaars and other retail giants like that.
Ankit, where are CCL sales concentrated from? Which states?
So right now it is mostly in Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. In terms of branded sales, I'm talking about.
Can you throw some light on the deal of CCL with the railways?
The deal happened long back, a couple of years back, and not just that. In case of in the railways, with what you see, the coffee which comes, so that coffee is also made by the instant coffee. The production is done by CCL only, and not just railways. They are also in tie-up with people like the hotel chains like Club Mahindra and all, wherein if you are a Club Mahindra member, if you go to the Club Mahindra resorts, you will see the CCL coffee in their rooms. So they are tying up their since the branded space in the retail segment, in the sense where in the market it will take some time to develop. So they are trying to scale up the institutional side by tying up with government, by tying up with railways, and by tying up with hotel chains like Club Mahindra.
What is the impact for the company of the cap of 2 crore rupees recently by the government of India and MEIS?
Uh, that's a negative thing. When the government says that they will put a cap, that means that however uh, 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 speed the revenue grows, however large their volume becomes, they will get a fixed benefit only. But reading into the notes and how management has interacted and spoken about this, they expect that this is something which can go to which can change in the years to come, wherein if government really want more and more Swadeshi thing to be uh, produced and exported outside India, they can't keep this kind of a cap. It is only going to be detrimental for the government only. So this is something which generally people expect that this thing should be revised soon. But of course, that is a risk if it doesn't get revised.
Ankaji, do you see that big companies like Nestle are dominating globally and they don't outsource their manufacturing to smaller companies? Could it be that this could be a scalability barrier for CCL?
Can you repeat the question, Rani bhai, again?
Big companies like Nestle, who are dominant players globally, they don't outsource or contract their manufacturing to smaller players like CCL. So could this be a entry barrier, a scalability barrier for CCL?
CCL is already scaling up its contract, the manufacturing base. So that is not a problem for them. If that would have been the problem, they would not been able to acquire more clients and grow their revenues in the bulk business, right? So they've been able to do that, and still the market is still a lot of market is still untapped from CCL's point of view. So that I don't think as a risk for CCL.
Who are their biggest customers?
I don't have the name right now, but
We can send it out to our readers in detail.
yeah, sure.
We can include it in the recording later on.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yes. What are your thoughts on CCL becoming a pan-India brand in the recent future?
It is too early to say how this whole thing will pan out. They have been consistently showing a very cautious approach, and I think what they are doing is the right thing by focusing on the geographies where they have much more control, and then taking the learning from those geography and then expanding to other geographies. So probably I don't expect them to be a pan-India present in the next 2-3 years itself. It might take a little longer time.
Is there any entry barrier to the coffee business?
I've already mentioned that in my slide, wherein the coffee business requires a lot of upfront capex costs, and the gestation period is very high, or very long. So you need to put a lot of capital and have patience for waiting for 4, 5 years, 6 years to make money. And on top of that, if you are competing with players like CCL, how will you convince their customers, because their customers are used to the proprietary blend of CCL? How will you make that? That is a secret sauce which CCL has, and it never shares with anyone. So, and a customer who is using CCL's product for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and is also having developed a very good relation, how will you change that? So that is a big entry barrier, according to us.
Since the contracts are long term, who bears fluctuation in the price?
That is being borne by the customers only, na? Because the contracts are always cost plus the margins of CCL. So whatever be the coffee price, it will always be, say for example, right now, what would be the coffee price? Around 1.5 के आसपास होगा, $1.5 per pound. So based on the current price, CCL will have a fixed margin component. It will add that margin component and then sell it to the customer. And as and when the coffee price fluctuates higher or lower, CCL will keep on adjusting the sale price. So the margin remained intact. And that is again, since you brought this point, I would want to stress on this point where if you see the revenue not growing, this is also one of the reason why the revenue not growing as fast as the profit, because many a times their volume is growing, but the impact is not shown in the revenue because the price is going down, or because of the coffee prices going down worldwide. So what we need to track is the EBITDA per kg, EBITDA per kg, or profit per kg, how much we are making per kg. That would give us a better indication how the company is doing over the years. So that is how we should look at the company.
Does CCL plan to foray into ground coffee, espresso coffee segment, or does it want to remain a pure instant coffee player only?
As of now, this is what they have projected, that they continue to remain in the insoluble, the instant coffee market, not the ground and other things.
Okay. 1 second. Uncle. Which are the other companies who are exporting instant coffee from India? Any idea?
I'm sorry, I had this note, but we'll share that with the during the recording. I
Sure.
don't have it right now. We'll share that in the.
Would you identify any catalyst or key triggers for the next 5 years?
The biggest catalyst is how they basically come up with this branded sales thing. If they can really leverage their presence in this freeze-dried coffee and make a dent in the branded space, that can put it into a different orbit altogether. So in our valuation, we have not taken that into consideration. So we are assuming in our valuation that they'll not be able to do much in the branded sales. But there is always an option, or there is always a possibility that they will be able to do that. If they can do that, which is very difficult, which is not an easy task. But if they can do that, if they can put a dent in the branded market, that can put them into a completely different orbit, and you will see people or stock market investors looking at CCL at a very different in a very different way altogether. As today, it is more or less looked as a contract manufacturer, which has no pricing power.
Ankit, what is the capacity utilization for CCL right now? And
Around
do they have any
25%.
planned capex in the next 1 to 2 years?
Yes, they do have planned capex for, in the next couple of years. But currently, because of COVID, they are a little slow on that, and they say that their first priority is to reach the capacity utilization to around 100% before around 95% before moving to the next step. So the capex is an ongoing thing. It's not that they have stopped capex, but they have slowed it down a little because of this.
Their debt has increased by 3 times in the past 3 years. Is this primarily to meet capex?
Yes, capex and also investment in the branded business, wherein a lot of R&D and E&P expenses are done.
1 second. Has the recent floods impacted coffee and tea prices?
It has, but it doesn't affect the business of CCL. Na? So why do we need to worry about that? The coffee prices have nothing to do with the business of CCL. It will continue to do well, irrespective of what the prices are.
Ankit, excellent presentation. This is Rajesh here. Just wanted to know about their growth. I understand they're exporting to a lot of countries, but how much of that growth they have achieved, and what else can be achieved?
Thanks, Rajesh. So, if I got your question correctly, you mean to say that you want to know about their growth plans in export, right? Other countries, how they want to expand.
Correct.
So that growth path, and that so if you look at their presence in the European Union, the European countries is still not very high. So they would want to. There is still a large market over there. That is where they want to as in grow their sales more. And right now, with what the company's management's interaction which we have with them, they're more their priority is to continue with the capex, the continue with the current revenues and the current customers, and focus on taking this branded sales up. And if they can manage to do that, that is what their first priority is. Even though that doesn't mean that they want to not focus on the bulk business, but they're giving all the indications that they're trying really hard to make this branded business work for them. Maybe it will take some time, but they want to work on it.
Ankit, there has been a lawsuit going against them in Andhra Pradesh. What is your comment on that?
Can you, as in,
Against environmental pollution in Andhra Pradesh? I think this will require a more detailed answer. We can include it in the recording.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah. Ankit, you've in your valuation, you've put in a growth rate in volume of 13%. Why that specific number?
No, it is not a specific number. You can put 10, you can put 15, you can put anything. We are not fixated on a number. We never value a company and look at that number. This is the value of the company, and we'll buy only when we get a certain CAGR. The valuation comes at a very, very, very last stage when we, first of all, we try to understand company. Then we look at, do we see the company having a long runway? And then we try to, just for the number's sake, we try to put a number and see whether it is conservatively priced or not. So as we have mentioned in our presentation, that rather than focusing on the exact value, our focus is more on whether the current value offers a huge margin of safety or not for us. So even after excluding the option of the price, the EBITDA, the PBT per kg, which has been increasing every year, if we have just taken it as a constant, and we have also taken that we will not, that this company will not benefit anything out of the branded business, even then, taking a 13% CAGR, you can take a 10% or a 15%. Even if it is a 10% CAGR, say if you are getting a 10% annualized return, where on a business where you know that there is a high possibility of capacity expanding much more than what it is today, and volumes driving much more than what, because the market is so huge, we have still not captured not even 5% or 10% of the market. So that is what we derive the comfort from an approximate value wherein we understand that this value is conservatively priced. The company at the current market cap is very conservatively priced. We are not in the business of accurately valuing the company based on what the future cash flows will be in 10 years. We are not in that business. We are just trying to take a conservative view of the company.
Ankit, what would be the comparison of EBITDA per kg of CCL against other listed players on average?
It would not be fair to compare it, because they have other listed players do not specifically are in the coffee, or even if they are in the coffee, they are not specifically in the processing side. They have a lot of other activities wherein they have plantation also, they have other branded business also going club together. So that would not be a fair comparison to make. All you can see is that compared to say a TCPL or a Tata Coffee or any other coffee player, CCL's margins are clearly high. We can, when in the recording, we can put a comparison chart of all the players. But even if you go to Screener or any other website, you can clearly go and see the EBITDA margin is far, far, far higher than other players in the market.
Thank you, Ankit. What is the source of information when you say that they have tie-ups with Mahindra Holidays and other hotel chains? also about their presence in retail chains.
This is all about the Mahindra holiday thing. We got to know only by interacting with the management. We called them and we asked that what they are doing to what are the steps they have taken to grow the business and the branded business. So they said that apart from the direct consumer strategy, they are also trying to increase the institutional sales in the branded space. So Club Mahindra is one. They've briefly spoken about it in one of the con calls also, if I'm not wrong. But in our interaction, they shared this with us.
Ankit, do you see any substitution for coffee from green tea
Uh,
and other new segments? Do you think that there is a long-term trend where consumers are drinking more of green tea and others rather than coffee?
if you talk about India, there are still a lot of people who are drinking tea. I think the first substitution will happen where more people will stop drinking tea and take coffee, because coffee is more trendy when young people move from small places to join colleges in, say, metro cities. They look at their peers having a coffee rather than a tea, and they catch up that trend. And even in that trend, we are so far behind. Still, predominantly, India is a tea drinking country. I don't think that the green tea thing is going to catch up so soon. Having said that, of course, there can be disruption from green tea, but not in the near future. I don't see that in the next, say, 3, 5 years, 7 years.
Ankit ji, can we know for every 1 rupee in capacity expansion how much revenue that they can add? Or if it is a detailed answer, we can include it in the recording. Just a short from you.
No, it's very difficult to say that over here. We can include that in the presentation.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. So those were all the questions.
So if you have any more questions, we still have time. We can take.
We still have time, but
I see one question: thoughts on ROE going down since 5 years. I don't know who is Mr. Keel or someone. Sorry if I pronounced your name in the wrong way. So that question. So ROE is down means, but ROE is still good enough if you look at the business. So 18 times ROE, 18% of ROE is not bad, right? And keep in mind that this ROE includes a lot of increase in costs which are taken in the branded space. They have hired new teams, new sales team. They have invested in advertisement, and ROE is also a function of this because low जिसको बोलते हैं कि since the turnover, if you see, the sales have been not growing as fast, so that is also putting up pressure on ROE, because ultimately your asset turnover ratio is low. So once the capacity gets more and more utilized, you will see better asset turnover ratio, and that will lead to better ROE. And even in a long journey of a company, in a business, it will keep on happening that in some times during the capex heavy period where you take up more debt to put more investment in R&D and A&P and capex, your near-term earnings will be depressed a little, and that is what we highlighted in our presentation, that they are sacrificing the near return for the long-term gain which they are trying to make in their journey.
Okay, Ankit ji, when you say that their volumes are growing, their asset turnover should be high. Is that reflecting?
When volumes will grow more, as in right now, because around 80 to 85% capacity utilization is done, okay, and in this increased capacity, once they reach, say, around 90-95% capacity utilization, that will lead to a higher asset turnover ratio, and that in turn will increase the ROE. So ROE is basically a component of profit margin, asset turnover, and leverage. So that's it.
Okay, Ankit ji, no more questions.
So-
Hi, Ankit. Amazing work. First of all, Amandeep here. Just
Hi,
wanted
Amandeep.
to
Thank
ask
you.
I just wanted to ask you, since CCL has been investing a lot in capacity, is it something like a necessary evil they have to do to maintain their competitive advantage? Because as Warren Buffett says, there are some industries wherein you have to continuously spend money just to maintain the competitive advantage. Is it this kind of a situation? If it is so, and even in the future they will keep on investing, and ultimately the net free cash flow in the hand of shareholders will be comparatively much lesser, even if the company has grown a lot.
That's a wonderful question, Namandeep. Thanks for bringing that up. And you are right in a sense that company actually got this thing, as in figured out that this is something which they have to continuously keep on doing. In order to grow their sales in the bulk market, they have to keep on expanding their capacity, which is again a capacity capex heavy model. And so that is why the whole branding thing has originated from that experience itself, that they want to grow brands, to grow their branded business in such a way that even with even with the current capacity, they are able to grow their sales and margins in a disproportionate way compared to what they are doing today. So, looking at two scenarios, if the company fails in the branded business, they will have to keep on doing this thing which you have mentioned for the next, say, 10 years, 15 years to maintain their competitive advantage. They want to break free from this cycle a little bit. That is why they have gone through the branded space, where if they can make a dent in the branded space, they will be spared a lot of, they will be able to save a lot of cash flows, wherein they can focus more on growing that branded space and grow this bulk business at a slow pace, wherein internal accruals would be good enough to grow the business and to take a slower growth rate in that sense.
Thanks a lot, Ankit.
So, Ronnie bhai, can we take more? As in, are there any more questions? We can take questions if anyone.
There are no more questions, but we
Okay.
still have time. But
Okay. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you Fin Medium again, and thank you FinSense Gurukul, because this whole platform is FinSense Gurukul. So I forgot to mention about FinSense Gurukul in the opening. It was really wonderful speaking to all of you, and it really means a lot to us when we see so many bright minds joining us on a Sunday, leaving their other personal commitments aside. It really feels great. And I would again repeat the disclaimer: this is not an investment advice. Please don't consider it as an investment advice. And in the recording, we will share the answers of a few questions which we couldn't during the presentation. So thank you everyone, and visit finmedium.com if you have any queries, or it would be great if you like the presentation. It would be great if you can share about the presentation on the social media, tagging FinMedium and SmartSync Services and FinSense Gurukul. Thank you everyone.
thank you, Ankit ji. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ankit.